Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today we're going to be looking at this Brian Julius article. I've been waiting for him to to come out with something on this, where he's talking about BI and the effect that AI and that's going to have on the data analytics space. And we'll get into that in a second. But where this started was like a week ago or so ago, maybe a week and a half. I don't know. Sam McKay started up a conversation between like Brian, myself, and Sam. And we were talking about all kinds of different stuff. There was griping about this and that and Fabric and Power BI, and then Brian throws out this zinger, right? And he's like, "What if Microsoft already knows that Power BI is a dead end, right? It's a dead product, and it's going to be replaced by what he's talking about in this article, right? He's like, what if it's going to be replaced by just it's a front end and you got a bunch of AI connected agents, connected through MCP, and then and that's and Microsoft knows that that's the future, and that Power BI is a dead end essentially in that regard. And so ever since he said that, I've been this video has been like percolating in my head, but I didn't want to put anything out there because that's I didn't want to do anything to like preempt Brian's content and that sort of thing. But now that he's published this, now I can make this video, right? So what he's talking about here is basically think of it like a software front end. Instead of Power BI, you have to go into Power Query Editor, right? And you have to go and say, oh, I need a SQL connection, and I connect to the SQL database, and I these credentials, and then this data, and all the data is not the way I want it, so I got to transform. It's all this manual work, right? What if you could just, you have an interface, in front of you, and we'll call this piece of software computer, right? Like Star Trek fans out there, right? You can just talk to it and be like, computer, can you? I need the inventory data for the last 3 years, and can you marry that up with the warehouse information and this and that? Just talk to it, and it knows that it knows it's like, oh, your ERP system is Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain, and I know how to connect to that, and I know the schema of that database, and I can go grab that information from the inventory tables and mash it up with the warehouse tables and join the tables together, and then boom, now here you have your data set. Poof, it's done, right? And you don't have to do anything other than just ask the computer to go get the data for you. That's it, right? And then you can ask the computer, be like, computer, can you, give me the average inventory, blah, blah, blah. What products have the highest turnover, within the warehouses, blah, 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 blah. And so, right, and in the compute and then the software just goes out and uses these AI agents to understand what you're talking about, and then bring back, Python, R visuals, GG, whatever it is, right? And it just brings you back, and there's your information, and right, and that's true self-service BI at that point, right? Not kind of the half measures we have with Power BI, which kind of went down that route, and then all the IT guys are like, "Oh, we must bring it back. It's not trustworthy." Blah blah blah. Right. So the question becomes, right? And there's so many. This leads so many different places. But forget about. I know there's doubters out there. There's always are with any tech, right? And for good reason, right? I mean, there's often false starts in tech, right? Where the hype gets ahead of what the technology is actually capable of doing, right? Absolutely. So this is how far back I go, right? Would you believe that back in the latter half of the 90s, right, 1995 and beyond, that unified messaging was a hot topic back then? The problem with it is that it kind of sucked. And it really wasn't, the technology just wasn't quite there to really make it a reality, right? But fast forward ahead 5, 10 years, and it's like everybody's like, well, of course I get my voicemail transcribed into my email. Like, why wouldn't that happen? That's just normal, right? So eventually, right, even if there is a false hype cycle, right, eventually the tech catches up with that hype, right? It may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, but it catches up. And that's why all these doubters about AI today, like AI will never blah blah blah. And you're wrong. You're wrong. Okay. You're just it's going to get there. It's just a matter of timing. Is it this year? Is it next year? Or is it 5 years from now? But it's going to get there. Everything that everybody's talking about, right? Everything that everybody's talking about, it is going to come to pass. Okay. That's just a fact. I've been in this technology business for 30 years. It's going to happen. Okay. That's just the one truism you can get out of tech is that, yes, there'll be false hype cycles, but eventually the tech is going to catch up and surpass it even. So, so the question I guess I get in my mind is, and now Second tangent, right? I've followed this for forever, right? And it's obvious at this point, 2 years in, that Power BI is on the decline, right? Microsoft's interest, I've shown it 6 ways from Sunday that Microsoft's interest in Power BI, other than as a captured user base to pay fees, monthly subscription fees, other than that, Power BI, Microsoft has no interest in Power BI. I mean, you just see it everywhere. I've shown it, you know, there's so many different ways. There's just no denying it at this point. And I think the final straw was that Kendra Little article on SQL Server and her seeing the same damn things going on. So, with that out of the way, the question that comes up to my head is how purposeful is it? And that may seem like a weird question, but let me explain, right? So, Microsoft, things Microsoft products and just software products in general, just business, how enterprises work, right? Is sometimes things go away, but because of changing priorities way up here at the top, right? And we're going to move budgets around, right? And then, the budgets get moved around, and now the business is now focused on this. These departments down here, they don't have enough, money now to hire to employ their, the same development teams that they did before, right? All of that sort of stuff, right? And then, so it just kind of naturally attrits, if you will. So that's one way. That's kind of not very purposeful. It's not super intended that necessarily happens, right? We're just shuffling these budgets around to like focus our priorities on what we think is important. And the most important thing to Microsoft right now is AI without any question at all. Like I even think Fabric is way down low on the totem pole, right? I mean, everything, the future, as far as Microsoft is concerned, whether you believe it or not, what Microsoft believes is that it's AI, all right, and it's Copilot and all of that stuff. I think that's pretty. I think you'd have a hard time arguing with that, right? So, is it that kind of purposeful, where it's just kind of trickle down, or is Microsoft looking at it and like, you know what, Power BI, that is a dead end, right? And we're already working on the replacement for Power BI. And so why would we put resources into Power BI? We're just going to, shrink it down to a skeleton crew and just keep it on life support because all these suckers are paying all this money for it. So even though, they're trapped into a dead end product, that we're going to replace, and we already know we're going to replace, right? Or is it that purposeful? 'Cause that's a different kind of purposeful than, hey, we're shuffling budgets around and things trickle down, right? So, and if you think about it, how many products really Power BI has reached? It's past a decade now, and how many Microsoft projects really last a decade? Right? I mean, so I've shown this page before in here that killed by Microsoft, and there's 184 of these, right? I think you'd be hard pressed to name 184 current products by Microsoft, to be quite honest, right? So you got Skype, you got 3D Paint, Calendar, WordPad, Xamarin, Cortana. I mean, some pretty big names back in the day, right? Silverlight, all of these had huge hype cycles around them as far as from Microsoft people and the MVPs, right? I'm sure, I guarantee there were Windows Phone MVPs, right? So you think about just the amount of failure that this page represents in terms of Microsoft, and it's just sort of, it's right in the face of the Zune, right? It's right in the face of all these people, all these MVPs. They love to hype up the myth, right? That Microsoft never loses, right? Well, there's a lot of loss here, people. I mean, there's a ton of it on here. Windows Phone probably being the biggest debacle, So Microsoft doesn't always win the important battles, right? That myth was built on, way back in the day. Microsoft won the Office wars, right? They won the browser wars, and then they lost it, right? Because now Edge uses Chrome, so the Chromium engine. So they don't always win, and even if they win, they don't always keep that win, right? So that's a complete myth, right? Microsoft fails far more often than they succeed, right? So I mean, if you could think of some products from Microsoft that have surpassed the 10-year mark, right? You'd have DOS in there, right? And that was, replaced by Windows. These are products that I would say were kept around for 10 years. Office, right? Got Office. SQL Server, right? Microsoft Exchange, right? Help me out here, people. It's like, how many can you really name that of these Microsoft products that have lasted, have lasted 10 years? And then, to think about the hurdle of lasting 20 years, 30 years, basically becoming a forever product like Windows and Office, and I would say I would count SQL Server in that as well. But so the question in your mind has to be is Power BI a forever product? And I don't know that it is. I mean, sometimes you get surprised by products, and Access, right? Microsoft Access turns out to be a forever product. I mean, despite Microsoft's best attempts to kill it, right? I mean, it still hangs around. It didn't get a lot of attention for a lot of years, but then it came back, right? So I mean, think about you're getting down to rarefied air at this point when you're talking about past 10 years and even 20 years to become a forever product, right? I don't, as much of a fan of Power BI that I don't think it's got the juice to do it. I don't really don't. I think Brian and Sam and those guys are right. And tell you what, that's the best part of my day is when I get to talk to those guys. Because they're smart, they're so smart. I love being in that club with those guys and getting to talk to them. That's the coolest. But so anyway, so I don't know if Power BI is. It certainly doesn't. Microsoft's certainly not acting like it, in terms of making it better and fixing long time bugs and the whole host of. I'm not going to go into all of the problems with it, right? I don't even think Fabric. I don't know if Fabric will last 10 years. I mean that would surprise me. I would be surprised if Fabric lasted 10 years, but we'll see. You can always, I'm not omniscient or any of that. So anyway, so I started thinking about like, well, what is something like what Brian is talking about in this article? What does it look like? Right. And Brian actually provided the answer, and he mentions it briefly in here, which is data fabricator. I forget where it is. It's data formulator, data fabricator. Anyway, it's a product that exists, right? Data formulator. There's a GitHub repo for it. You can get it installed. It's fairly simple. The biggest thing, you just follow the directions, right? You got to have Python installed and stuff like that. It's once you get that done, it's fairly simple to get it installed. Just remember to run your command prompt in admin mode. That was the biggest hurdle that I had to overcome. I'm like, why is this failing? I'm like, oh, Doug, Greg, admin, run it as admin. Then you're fine. And then what you want to do is, so with data formulator, basically it's this canvas kind of application, right? And it connects to an AI agent and it can do stuff, right? I'll show it to you here. So what you want to do is, like, I have Chat GPT. So you go out and Chat GPT, you create a domain, and basically you create some API keys, right? Got to do that. You have to add some money to be able to use the APIs. So I just added $5. Apparently it's like that'll get me like 100,000 calls to this thing or something stupid. So $5, you can afford $5. So you set that up. And it's got, here's authentication and everything. You don't need to really know anything about the actual API itself. I'll show you how to actually connect to it and stuff like that. All right, so here's data formulator. All right, so this is once you get it running, right? It runs in like a little window here. This way. So I got it installed. You run it, and here it is running. And so you can click on example data and they get file, clipboard. Not a lot of places you can get from, but click on examples. And I was using the movies database. You say load table. Okay, so here you go. So and look, here's all these visualizations that you can do. And here's my data, and I can do sorting and all kinds of fun stuff. Right. So let's say that we want to, let's see, scatter plot. Let's use scatter plot. And one thing you need to do to set up your actual Chat GPT. So this is where you paste in your API key, right? Right here. You choose Open API. The biggest thing that got me was in the documentation. It says you want to use GPT-4.0, and it used all caps, right? Don't do that. Don't listen to the documentation. Use lowercase. Actually, I had reached out on the Discord channel to figure that out. But you don't need anything for API base or anything for API version. You just need all lowercase GPT-4.0 with a valid API key and choosing Open API as your provider, right? They also have, Anthropic and Gemini you can use if you want. Anyway, so you apply that, and now you're connected up to the AI. So what you can do here is you can say okay, what's the we'll put the worldwide gross in the y-axis, and we'll put the cost, the production budget, in the x-axis, right? So we got the budget versus the cost. Now here's the crazy thing. So I can just start typing in here. I can be like profitability ratio. hopefully this works, profitability ratio, and put that in the size. So now it's got this, oh, this is a new field. This field isn't in this, right? And then now I hit this little formulate, and it thinks for a little bit. Again, this worked the last time. Okay, so it did it. I don't know why the scaling is kind of jacked, but whatever. So this is a this is a movie, right? In terms of that has the largest profitability, and you can have you get like little things about about like a view transformation explanation, right? Compute called profitability ratio by dividing worldwide gross by production budget to assess the financial success of each. So it just figured that out, right? Yeah, I created this new thing here, this new field. I'm like, I want profitability ratio, and hit the formulate button. It goes out and says, oh, what the heck is profitability ratio? Well, that's and it figures it out. It figured it out, right? And the funny part is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is that this movie is actually Deep Throat, which is all kinds of funny that's even in the database, in the movie database set, example database set that they have. Anyway, if you don't know what that movie is, then don't look it up. NSFW. So anyway, that's it. Anyway, so that's pretty cool. Like it doesn't do much. This is from Microsoft Research, and this is pretty much kind of all it does. At least what I've been able to kind of mess around with, right? But it's a start of you can see that something like this that's even smarter than this, right, could easily replace Power BI and be better, right? I think the biggest interesting thing that'll will be the biggest hurdle will be the interactivity between charts, because I think some little bit of rapid development on this could be this will easily be able to do some really cool stuff with single charts and that sort of thing. So anyway, this is what Brian is talking about in that article, and I think it's intriguing to think about, right? It's kind of goes with some of my own thinking about this, that Power BI Desktop is on the decline. It's really in life support mode at this point. In icons, my concept was, well, maybe they're putting all their resources in a Fabric desktop, but I really don't think so. I think they're just, I don't know how purposeful it is. I don't know if they're killing Power BI off on purpose because they know and are already working on its replacement, or if it's just they're just shuffling budgets around. And Power BI is coming out on the short end of the stick because it's a successful product that they can shelve it into life support mode. Got all these SAPs paying all this money per month for it, right? I think it's the greatest thing ever, and that it's going to continue on. But Microsoft already knows it's dead. I don't know which one of those it is. But that is all I had for this video. So hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.